Right, take number 5. Sorry, folks, you're going to be hearing me repeating myself again. Novice. Where is it? Water. Unfortunately, for ESA submissions, we need commentary over it. Ah, nice, okay. This is a pretty cool place to be in. Because it means I can do the checks, which I would do anyway. And I can then just go straight into a run. Cool. Okay. Here goes take number 2. Cool. So, we have to break down the category first and foremost, because we need to understand what do we actually do in this category. First and foremost, let's talk about CCFPS. Now, this is actually 2 terms. First, CC. CC is crouch clipping. And crouch clipping is where we use the crouch button to go up and down against doors. Frame rate toggling, or FPS, allows us to change our frame rate cap. And as you can see, we can go straight through doors with it. Now, this is a very, very useful glitch. It allows us to do many different things, and we will be utilizing it extensively throughout this run. Secondly is 100%. So 100% requires us to get all terminal logs, all audio logs, all Nostromo logs, all ID tags, and last but not least, all blueprints in order. Specifically in order, because if you get version 1 blueprints, all version 1s despawn. If you get version 2s, all version 1s and 2s despawn. So we need to make sure that we don't pick up a version 2 or a version 3 before a version 1. Now, playing through the game, we have to talk to 2 NPCs in this mission. This is Samuel's. We talk to him and then immediately leave his room. Now, after a bit of time, his animation will change. There we go. And this indicates that his dialogue line has actually skipped to the final dialogue line. Then we can leave once his dialogue is done, and we can move on. So it turns out that the developers wanted to put in a failsafe so that even if you left the room, you wouldn't miss all the dialogue. However, this failsafe actually activates much quicker than if you just listened to all the dialogue. And so once again, we're going to activate the dialogue and leave the room. But what we're going to be doing here is walking backwards to a certain marker, that little beam across the floor, and then walking back. This will make a certain amount of time pass, meaning that when we walk back, we have Taylor's last line of dialogue. Perfect. Does Italian have the shortest dialogue? Yes, it does. So Italian is used for a couple reasons. Check Samuel's, good. But all of those, especially in 100%, are because we have to wait for the shortest amount of time in bits of dialogue where we cannot do anything. And that is really, really useful. It also has a couple other language-specific glitches, which is all to do with dialogue cancelling, which are also quite cool, and I will point them out when we get there. So here we're waiting for Samuel to get into this room, so dialogue starts. And now, during the downtime, we get the last terminal here. So we want to do as much as possible during downtime. And that's because if an event has to happen anyway, such as this dialogue, we may as well do something in it, rather than waiting for this to finish and then doing something else. We can do 2 things at once, which is always useful. But here, as far as the story goes, we are going onto a spaceship to investigate the whereabouts of our missing mother. There we go. But on the travel over, things have not gone to plan. So what this means is we went over with Samuels and Taylor. There was an explosion. We managed to get inside the space station, but we don't know anything about the other 2. We don't know what happened to them. All we know is that we are here. And we need to survive, because bad things have happened. So what we should be doing is we are going to be running throughout the space station, doing as much as we can here. So first things first, we're going to start running through this little sequence. Mission 2 is very much meant to be the tutorial here, and as it's the tutorial, if you know what you're doing, it goes by quite quickly. However, it's still, even at perfect paces, it takes about 15 minutes, which is far too long, so we're going to try and cut that down a bit. So we have nefarious intentions to utilize crouch clipping in order to actually skip a fair bit of this. And when I say a fair bit, I mean about 10 minutes of it. So notoriously, there is an NPC called Axel. And Axel takes ages to do anything. He teaches you about peeking, about crouching, about the flashlight, about how to use your melee weapon. And we don't need to know any of this stuff because we're a speedrunner and we like to go fast. So this technique called crouching sounds very slow to us. We shan't be using it. So what we will be doing is skipping all of that boring stuff and just going fast, because that's what we like to do. We are going to pick up as much loot as we can here. We don't actually need 2 ethanol, so I'm happy leaving that. And we are going to make a beeline for all of the collectibles. So there are a couple in particular that we need to get, simply because there's no better time to get them, really. The first of which is this tutorial. Tutorial terminal. 1, 2, 3. Good. What's the first C in CC mean? It means crouch. So crouch clipping. We do not want to take damage from this wire. And instead, we want to just go through. We need to preserve as much health as possible for later tricks. And you'll also notice me getting, or crouching before trying to clip through some doors. That's because we need to enter a state called pre-crouch state. It's not entirely known as to, or not known for certain why we need this, but we simply accept that we need to be in a pre-crouch state in order to clip through things. And in order to obtain this pre-crouch state, what you need to do is just crouch for about a second. It's quite generous, easy to get, but you'll lose it if you enter a crawl space or duck under something like a table or a desk or anything like that. So normally you have to fairly deliberately get rid of it. But we've just gone out of bounds and we hit a cutscene trigger and we're at the end of the mission. So what we just saw there was a cutscene of Axel dying. Now, we never got introduced to Axel. All that we know is Axel is now dead. Bye-bye, Axel. So what we're doing now is, rather than just running normally by holding the sprint key and holding forwards, we are now sprinting diagonal right. And the reason for this is because by sprinting diagonally right and pressing crouch roughly once every half second, we can actually interrupt Ripley's running animation, so her feet never touch the ground. What this means is the game's sound system is designed to make footsteps whenever Ripley touches the ground. And by not touching the ground, we never make any footsteps, and so we're able to run silently. Now, running is very useful in this game because it's quick. So running silently is very useful because it's silent and quick. And also here we're going to bind our things so that we can use numbers on our keyboard to actually just quickly take something out. We don't have to go into the radial menu every single time. It's a very useful little bit of time save. Right, so we want to try and get out of this tram as quickly as possible. And yeah, that behaved fairly well. Sometimes it can just get you stuck in the tram for ages. And we are going to pick up our second blueprint, because we picked up one earlier. But this is the medkit V2. The blueprint we picked up earlier was for medkit V1, and so we may as well just pick up the medkit V2 while we're here. It's convenient, it's very useful, because if ever we need to heal, it will heal 75% of our health. Now, we're unlikely to need to use more than 1 or 2 medkits in this run, So it's very useful just to make sure that every time we have to use them, it takes us to pretty much full health. Ooh, that's unfortunate. So getting shot there is very unfortunate, especially with an early crouch. So I tried to crouch early to minimize the chances of us getting shot, but unfortunately we still got shot. This means that in mission 4, I'm either going to have to heal, or it's going to be slightly dicey, or I just have to be really good. So here, because we've actually skipped the tutorial, it means that we're missing out on a couple things. One of which is a melee weapon. Normally as part of the tutorial, you pick up a melee weapon. We don't have that, which means that going out of our way to pick up the revolver, while a very useful weapon in general, it's not actually needed. However, because we don't have a melee weapon, it's really useful, and we're going to be reliant on it for the first couple missions, simply because we have no other weapon. There's one bit in particular in the next mission where we are really reliant on having a weapon. And with the introduction of the alien, now is a pretty good time to talk about enemies. There are 4 enemies in the game, and those are the alien, who we like to call Steve, facehuggers, humans, and androids. Now, the alien's obviously really dangerous, but in general we try and avoid the alien, because the alien's dangerous. Facehuggers are always scripted, they will always appear in the same place, there's no real RNG surrounding them in this run. Which leaves us with androids and humans. Humans are very fickle, because there's a lot of RNG to them. They can have 2 different weapons. They can have shotguns, which do no damage, and revolvers, which do a lot of damage. As you saw, we got hit by a revolver earlier, and it did a pretty nasty chunk of damage. So we want to avoid or kill revolver humans, if at all needed. Androids, on the other hand, are pretty chill. We don't need to worry too much about them, because you can just outrun them. We'll talk more about them next mission, though. So here, we're going to make use of flares. Flares are amazing, because they can be used to distract enemies. And on the exit to this mission, in particular, we will be needing to distract the alien. And so, throwing a flare, we can see the alien just down at the bottom of the stairs, over to the left now, and we need him out of the way and out of our line of sight while we pick up the hack tool. The hack tool is critical for this run, it is mandatory, however it's currently broken. Normally, you would fix it in this mission. However, we are not doing that. For the simple reason of, well, we skipped it. So, we now have a broken hack tool, which is a bit not really very useful. So, we'll have to fix that later, and we'll do that in mission 7, which is in a fair bit. But it means that we will not actually be able to hack anything for quite a while. And we'll come back to that, because that's going to cause us some problems later on. So, what we're going to do in the meantime is actually go through all these locked doors. If you play the game casually, you may know that these doors unlock later in the mission. However, we're actually going to do a bit of weirdness to ensure that these doors never unlock throughout the game. And there's a couple reasons for that. It's more prevalent in Nightmare, but even in Novice it's beneficial. Ooh. Okay, squeeze around that guy. Grab the smoke bomb, V1. This actually appears in a couple of places. Normally, most runs will pick it up in mission 3, however we never actually visit the area in mission 3 where it spawns. So there's no real reason for us to go out of our way to get it. We like to pick it up now where it's nice and easy. And we get the motion tracker now. So the motion tracker is really useful, but we don't use it all that much. Good terminal. And we sneak out and around past this Joe. He's friendly anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the motion tracker will help provide us with some critical information. The motion tracker has 2 purposes. One, you can actually hold it, and you'll be able to see where things are within a certain distance. And second, it will give you a beep whenever something enters its little listening range. So this range is 0.96 in-game units, which is pretty meaningless, to be honest. It's roughly here to the end of this wall, to the end of this corridor. A fairly far distance, but nothing crazy. Oh, come on, door. Let us through. Good. So here is where we really need our weapon. We're bypassing a cutscene, which normally would actually kill that NPC. However, because the game doesn't kill the NPC, we have to kill the NPC, because otherwise the NPC will kill us. And in the downtime while waiting for the elevator, we are going to quickly use that terminal, grab all the logs, quickly loot this body, and then be on our merry little way up here. Wait for it, and go. Good. So now we're not going to silent run weirdly, and that's because we want the Joes to stop, hear us, and then do whatever they're doing. That's because when they actually hear us, it gives us enough time to actually run past them. Now, Joes only have one attack, and that is they can grab you. And if they can't grab you, they can punch you. Now, the punch is meaningless. It deals a tiny bit of damage, but the grab stops us from moving, which can put us in some real nasty situations. We quickly talk to Samuels, have a little cutscene, and now use a rewire. These things are buggy, so bit of focus. Oh, okay. Slightly messed up at the end. We should still be okay. I misinput there and hit tab twice. So the reason we have to use the rewire is we're actually opening two doors. One door here, which gives us a terminal, which is obviously needed for 100%. And secondly, it gives us access to an ID tag, which is just out here through this door, which was previously locked. Now, just checking, good, I did pick up the flashbang. We silent run past this guy. In Novice, you can actually just run straight past him. And now, we are going to be doing the trick which keeps the doors locked. We are going to be doing our first major out-of-bounds sequence. And so I'm going to be taking a marathon-approved safety save. And this is the first real proper marathon safety save. We're going to be clipping out of bounds, falling down here, which causes us to miss the trigger that opens all of the doors at the bottom of the elevator, running out of bounds here, and then we're going to line ourselves up with the elevator that we first entered the mission on, which is just about here. Now, we fly out of bounds, out and around, and towards the elevator doors. Now, these are doors, and we can clip through them. So we make sure we fall low enough, clip through them, run up to the top of the stairs to tell the game that, yes, we have actually done the exit sequence, and we are ready to leave the mission. If you don't run far enough up the stairs, then the game says, you haven't actually done this mission properly. But by going to the last checkpoint, the game says, you're good. And that is mission 4. However, we are in a very, very convenient place to actually do some backtracking. Or really, it's hardly backtracking actually, we're going ahead and getting stuff that we shouldn't be able to get yet. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one is it's just more convenient than getting it later. 7, 10, 8, 9. Good. So we get the 3 logs there. There's some extra stuff on that terminal. It's all to do with mission 10. And we can run around here, grab the ID tag. And most importantly, the whole reason we're coming here early is to get this, the Noisemaker V2. And then we're going to save. This is not a safety save, but instead, this is our first instance of a save warp. Now, a save warp is where we run and go collect something, and then quickly teleport back by reloading our save. Now, this only works because in 100%, all items that we pick up, with the exception of blueprints, are persistent, and we actually get to keep them through reloads. Now, this is really important, because it facilitates some rather crazy stuff that we do, especially later on. But it means that we can get into situations, such as in that gas room, where we are guaranteed to die. But, because we got the item that we need, it's all good. We don't need to worry about dying, because, well, we picked up the thing we need. So it's really, really helpful for that. And we're just picking up a couple of extra collectibles here, before we actually finish off mission 4 properly. Because currently we're just in the last little bit. Oh, okay, let's open this up. It's useful later too. So we still have missed a couple of collectibles in mission 4, but we'll pick them up later. We've got one final thing to pick up before we actually leave. And that is one last Nostromo log. And so we've done all of this backtracking in mission 4 itself for a couple reasons now. The main reason is if we were to try and get all of this stuff in mission 10, then for some of this stuff, it would actually be locked behind scripted sequences. Now, specifically, the the Nostromo log that was in the gas room was locked behind a scripted sequence in mission 10, and it's a sequence that if you try and break in mission 10 will crash your game. So it's very, very important that we don't do that, because, well, that would be bad, wouldn't it? And it just happens to be very convenient to actually run around and get all this stuff now. But now we're in mission 5, and mission 5 is the first mission in a casual playthrough at least, which is really a difficult mission. Now, the reason it's difficult is because this is the first mission where we have to deal with an active alien. This is also a good time to talk about alien states. So there are 4 states for an alien to be in. 1 is inactive, such as now. There is no alien, you cannot cause the alien to drop, it simply does not exist. State number 2 is one that we have encountered in things like mission 3, at the end of mission 4, and at the end of mission 2, which is called the passive state. This state is where the alien is in the vents, but it has no intention of dropping, unless you either stay in the same place for ages, which we definitely don't intend to do, or if you cause it to drop by making too much noise. Now, this is the state that the alien will be in for most of the game. The third state is the state that normally the casual player would access here, or would first encounter here, which is the active state. The active state is always actually achieved when the alien first drops. And once an alien has dropped, it immediately transitions to an active state, and will never revert to a passive state. Except for some very weird, niche scripted scenarios. But the active state means that it will drop actively, and it will hunt you. It will drop of its own accord, you can be absolutely silent, and it will still keep on dropping. Now, whenever the alien's in the passive state, if it drops once, it will be in the active state. And so the active state is by far the most dangerous state the alien can be in. The final state is a scripted state. Now, a scripted state can be achieved only under a couple scenarios, but we'll see one at the end of this mission. And a scripted state is where the alien is forced to do a set sequence of actions, and normally animations. And this is encountered throughout the game, mostly to make the game scarier. However, for a speedrun, it's very useful because we are able to find out exactly what the alien is going to do ahead of time. Also, speaking about this mission, we're doing everything in reverse here, which you may have noticed had you played this game casually. But we're literally doing everything in reverse. We haven't even activated the alien, we've just almost finished the mission. So, we have now activated the very end state of this mission. And it's about to get weird. So hopefully, the room should turn red. Good. And now we're going to activate the alien to prevent Coleman from soft-locking, because Coleman is currently in a very confused state, whereby we've talked to him with Dr. Morley's keycard, which we're not meant to have, but when we do have, it causes him to enter a state whereby he then starts moving through to the end. So now we hug the right wall here. We hear the beep, which is the alien getting into the correct position for the scripted sequence where Dr. Morley dies. We now grab this. Click back through here. Morley dies. Oh, Coleman, sorry. It's not Morley, it's Coleman. And we exit the mission. And we're done. I kept on saying Morley there. Morley is the person that we looted the keycard from. Coleman is the one who just died. And now we have some fun things to do, because we're in Mission 6. And in Mission 6, we have a few things to do. First and foremost is access this rewire. Now, a rewire is a bit weird, because why do we need to access this? We have to actually enable the vent, because enabling the vent opens up a drawer with an ID tag. You can click through this door, it's a bit inconvenient, so for marathon's sake, I'm just going to get the stun baton. We will actually use this later on as well, but it's the sort of thing that you don't have to actually use. Convenient, but far from needed, especially in a record run. The alien here is in the passive state, but really dangerous. It will drop very, very quickly, so we need to be careful to not make noise. But now we are going to go and hopefully save some time. So we are going to do Mission 6 by not doing Mission 6. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get out of bounds, clip through the door, fall out onto the area below, go out of bounds, drop through a vent, then clip back through the door, and we're actually right at the start of Mission 5. So where we previously were just about, 4 minutes ago, roughly. And we're going all the way back to the tram. And you may be thinking, wait, what? Why? Why did you go all the way back to the tram? Like, what purpose does that serve? And there's one specific purpose here. And that is to access the exit of Mission 6. But before we do that, while we're here, we can actually grab something on the way. This is a Nostromo log. And normally you're meant to be accessing this way later, but we can actually just grab it now because it's on the way, and currently the alien is actually not a concern at all. That being said, I heard a beep and it spooked me. I didn't think the alien was active here. Maybe that's just me. So we go up through this elevator, and this is now what I like to call the soft lock elevator. It loves to soft lock you. So we are going to try and not get soft locked. Ooh, I don't like that. Okay, recovered. Good, perfect. So we're out of the elevator. And we are now in a place which is very, very close to the exit of Mission 5. Oh, sorry, to the entrance of Mission 5. But with one key difference, it has this elevator loaded. And that is a very important distinction. Previously, at the beginning of Mission 5, this isn't actually loaded. It's got a separate map loaded. And this being loaded means that we can then squeeze through, and we're out of Mission 6. So I did actually get a spare stun baton charge, which is kind of useful. If that happened in a marathon run, it would be really cool, because they're not actively that useful, but they have some niche uses. I'll show one off in Mission 11, because it's a cool extra trick. It may not be optimal, but hey, this is all about showing up cool stuff. So here we're listening for a beep. Hopefully about here. There we go. So that indicates that we have good RNG on the humans. There are 2 human positions, and we have the good RNG one. So in Mission 7, the whole purpose of the mission is really to just fix the elevator so we can keep on moving. We also have some fun 100% related stuff to do, but our main purpose is just fix the elevator, get moving. Here we're silent running past humans, going around the forklift to break line of sight, and triggering a scripted sequence of events. This kills off all the humans, which is very, very useful, because there are 3 revolver humans there. As I mentioned earlier, revolver humans bad. They will very happily kill us, so we need to be careful to not get seen by them. Here we can actually clip out and around just past that box to save a whole second, but we'll take any time save we can get. Here we can grab the compression cylinder, which is what we need in order to actually finish the mission, but we have a couple things that we still need to do. First and foremost, you may remember I mentioned fixing the hack tool all the way back in Mission 3, and we're finally going to do that. However, this isn't the hack tool version 1, this is the hack tool v2. And functionally for us, that makes very little difference. But it does come with a couple nice benefits. The first of which is that we can now activate level 2 hacks. But also, the hack till V2 is mandatory for game progression. We're going to take another save here, not a safety save. This is purely a save warp save. And we have a bit of a harder gas clip now. My health is a bit low, so I'm a bit worried about this, but we should be able to make it as long as we don't get stuck. Perfect. Yeah, our health was on like 10% there, which is definitely a bit close for comfort. But we're all good. We get the pre-crouch. Oh, didn't quite crouch for long enough. There we go. And we grab the terminal. And now we can do a real tiny time save and save warp right back to the save station. Ooh, which is very close to the ladder. Saves us having to clip through the door again. Now, the alien is, despite dropping, still in the passive state. And that's because it dropped in a scripted sequence of events. Because the drop was scripted, we don't actually have to worry about the alien anymore. Or we don't have to worry about it dropping randomly. Grab the smoke bomb V2, grab the terminal, and our job here is to silent run all the way around here. If we make too much noise, the alien will drop and we will almost certainly die, because we still have no way of actually combating the alien. There are 2 guaranteed flares here, which are so useful for later on in the run. Flares, despite their main purpose being used to distract things, actually have another purpose which I'll mention later on in the run, in Mission 14. Because we will want as many flares as possible for that trick. For now though, we are going to be wanting to exit, and then enter chaos mode. So things start to get a bit weird and wacky here, so what we're going to do to try and explain this trick is we're going to clip out of bounds and save. Now I'm going to lower my frame rate cap from the usual down to 6 FPS for this trick. And that's because we are going to try and gain vertical velocity. Now, how the heck do we do that? What we do is we do a trick called a bevel, which, ooh, that's really good. Ah, no, I hit the ceiling. A bevel means that we hit a ledge at an angle. Okay, didn't go high enough there, which is fine. We can drop down here and do another setup. And we're hitting a ledge, and we're having the game correct our velocity. And this is because at low FPS, the game wants to fix up our velocity by applying an acceleration to us. Now, by applying this acceleration, because it wants everything to be, it wants all speeds to be uniform, regardless of how poorly our performance may be. For example, if you're at low FPS, it will try and keep your movement speed the same, and it will try and keep the acceleration the same on a frame-by-frame basis. In order to do this, it needs to apply a much higher acceleration at low frame rates than at a higher frame rate. So this puts us in a very interesting scenario whereby for 1 or 2 frames, the game is actually applying a huge acceleration to Ripley. And when trying to go through a set of stairs, for example, if you are in a situation whereby you're trying to walk upstairs, you don't want the game to actually send you purely horizontally, because this serves no purpose. You clip through the stairs. You need to actually have a vertical component to the velocity. And so what the game does is it says, okay, fine, you're trying to go onto a stair-like or slope-like surface, therefore I need to apply vertical acceleration. But the game overcompensates massively for the vertical acceleration, and that's what is used to propel us really, really high into the air. Now, this is an amazing trick. Now, most of the time, however, we cannot simply do this consistently. This, however, is one of the few areas where we have worked out a consistent setup for this, which is amazing. Because it means that we have just accessed areas in Mission 12, which normally would be locked behind a whole set of scripted sequences, it would take minutes and minutes and minutes to get to. However, we have just obtained all of the collectibles from that area in about 2 minutes, including trick setup time, which is amazing. And so it saves so long compared to doing it the intended way, which is amazing. We love it. But it's also just a very hard trick, so I'm very happy it went well. I did have to go to the backup consistent route, but we nearly got it first try, which would have been amazing to actually showcase. Here we're going to do something a little odd, which is we're going to clip in here, and we're going to get that, and not the blueprint. There's a blueprint right next to that audio log, and we're very importantly not picking it up. We have the pipe bomb version 1, but we do not yet have the pipe bomb version 2, and in that room is the pipe bomb version 3. So if we picked up the version 3, sorry, it would despawn the version 2, which would then cause us to fail 100%. So we need to really ensure that we don't do that. However, picking up the audio log means that we can do something pretty cool later, and I'll show you in mission 15, because that's when the pipe bomb V3 will next get picked up. And it's something that you two can do just by booting up the game, and so I'll make sure to point it out when we get there. Here we can call the elevator through the brace, and then clip into the elevator. We want to make sure that we have a flare here. In the downtime, I'm going to make something. Light the flare, press the button, and then go here. And by doing that, it teleports us outside of the elevator, and does a straight teleport when the lift actually changes its area. It just means that we're immediately actionable. Lovely, lovely, lovely trick. Saves a whole 2 seconds, but looks awesome. And what do we care about? Time save or looking cool? That's right, looking cool. So here, the human will deal with the android. Other way around. The android will deal with the human, and we are going to sneak past and quickly use this terminal. Now, we are going to give this guy a little tickle with the revolver, and we are going to get moving through an all unintended exit, really. So it turns out that we can clip through a bit more than just doors. And so we are going to be doing something a bit weird here. But by clipping out of bounds, we can then actually enter the tram area, which we first came from, in this way. We can hit the button, and we're going to fire a revolver shot to keep humans from actually coming there. Now, there would be 4 revolver humans, which are very, very dangerous. Here we're going to go up, update the objective, quickly clip back in here to pick up 2 useful items, well, 2 collectibles, sorry, which we have to pick up. And now we're going to rush back to the tram. And so we're picking up collectibles in downtime, which is the best time to pick them up. And that is now a majority of Mission 8. That is definitely the hard part done as well. We can make a medkit, so there's no reason to not heal. Getting back up to full health is always useful. So, next on Mission 8, we have a couple things to rather frantically do. First and foremost, out of the tram. So we are now catching up with all of our lovely, lovely friends. Taylor is now being taken care of. Samuels wants to help out. Marshall Waits, who we briefly encountered, is still being a jerk. And we are discussing a plan. A plan of what can we do against this alien. Because the alien is a nuisance, shall we say. So how can we deal with it? We are going to find out, first and foremost, what an NPC called Marlowe knows about the alien, and how it first came to be in Sevastopol. Because Marlowe is guilty. Guilty of bringing the alien here. So we are going to hear his story of just how that came to be. We're also going to make a couple bits of loot here. and keybinds and stuff.
È in un'orbita di parcheggio intorno al gigante gassoso. Quel figlio di puttana non vuole darci i codici di comando
That's good
per
enough.
avvicinarla qui automaticamente. Magari puoi provare tu a convincere quel bastardo.
Wait for the dialogue.
Va a parlare con lui.
And then go and run and press this. So now what we need to do very, very quickly is run and get all of the collectibles here. ID tag. There's a box with a bit of loot, so I would like it. There are 2 more terminals and 1 audio log that we need to try and get all within the short bit of dialogue that we have here. There's a small window here where if you do fail a clip, it's not the end of the world. If you fail a clip twice, it's very bad. Fortunately, we're all good. Clips went nice and smoothly. Grab this last one. And then grab a bit of loot. And we're in business. Okay. So, now we have 1 or 2 more things to do before we get into the real interesting stuff. Unfortunately, one of those things is Mission 9. Mission 9 is, in essence, a glorified auto-scroller. However, there are a couple things we can do to actually speed it up. First and foremost, you can actually clip outside of this early. There we go, we're out. We have our tracker, which is lovely. There's a bug whereby you can actually lose your tracker. Mostly happens in 100%. So, in this category, it's not the end of the world if it happens, but it's never a good thing if it does happen. And in Mission 9, we have a couple things that we need to keep in mind. There are 2 parts to Mission 9. Part 1, every single bit of terrain is paper thin. Now, based on what we've done in the past, that may be ringing alarm bells saying, wow, you can just entirely break it, right? Yes. But not to our favor for the most part. And that's because the place we need to go to is above where we are currently. Now, surely, because, I mean, what we did in Mission 7, we got vertical height, right? Can't you do that here? Unfortunately not, because the ground is so paper thin that by trying to actually launch ourselves off of it, we fall through the floor. So it's remarkably hard to actually go upwards in this section. What we can do, however, is at least go sideways and out of bounds. So we are going to be making as much use as possible of a setup here to go out of bounds and then skip this little rock fall. Oh, come on, game. There we go, we got it. So this skips us waiting for an NPC, which is really, really useful, because waiting for NPCs is slow. However, we actually have to go back a bit in order to activate the trigger that allows us to place an explosive, which then allows us to progress the mission. There is only really that clip that we can do in order to speed this mission up, which means that there's still really about another 7 minutes or so of pretty slow gameplay. As for marathon-specific things, oh, sound warning, explosion, 3, 2, 1, boom. This is donation time, so I would absolutely say this is a great time for donations, because we have a couple minutes where we can talk about future missions, but there's nothing current to talk about. Which also means for the first time in 40 minutes, I can drink a bit of water. So, once Heist, this NPC, gets there, he'll give us a leg up. And then we will be done with the first part of Mission 9. The second part is more auto-scroller, and it's all meant to be a big tribute to the first Alien movie. Those of you who have seen it will be able to recognize a fair few things. And it's kind of cool. Playing through this for the first time is amazing. However, as a speedrunner, we've seen this a fair few times at this point. Also, just to show how paper thin things are, we can just casually go out of bounds quite easily here. It doesn't affect anything, but it's always rather amusing to do. Good, okay. Now that we're in the second part, unfortunately it's not quite the same as the first part. The terrain here is very thick. Unlike the first half, where it's all paper thin, this terrain is monstrously thick, and we can't clip through really anything here. Which is a shame, because our objective, unlike the first half, is below us. And especially as you'll see later on in the game, whenever an objective is below us, that introduces the possibility of doing some really rather wild things. Unfortunately for us, we can't really make best use of crouch clipping in order to do much here. And frame rate toggling doesn't really do anything, because, I mean, we can play the game in low frame rate, but all it does is hinder the animations of other things. Given that we're waiting for humans, if we toggle our frame rate, it just makes them slower, which in turn, as we have to wait for them, makes us slower, and we don't want that. So what we do here, really, is we can talk about some prep for the next mission. Mission 10 is monstrously difficult. And fortunately, in a CCFPS run, we get a fair few tools to actually make it easier. So one thing that we will have to do is we will have a couple of mission-sensitive collectibles that we'll have to get. Now, most of the time, you can actually backtrack to pick up various collectibles in other missions. Mission 10 introduces some of the few which you can't. One of those is a very, very awkward log, which is given by talking to 3 humans. By talking to 3 humans, they give you a key code, which is used to access the medkit V2. However, we've already got that, so we don't need it, but we need the key code because that's a log. So it's going to be a rather annoying thing to actually get. So I'm going to get into position first and foremost to make sure that we can kite an NPC. Though the act of kiting an NPC actually involves them kind of trying to go around us, but we can push them into a more beneficial position that way. Cool, okay. Nice, that's a good human. But yeah, the space jockey here is definitely kind of the highlight of most people seeing this room for the first time. And one thing that was really cool is I believe that the developers of this game reached out to the creators of the movie, and so many assets were actually shared and were able to be used for the design of this game, which is so cool. And you can really see that here. Like, it's such a big tribute to the original movie. So many reused assets, so many reused things. And especially with the luxury of actually scaling it to an appropriate size. It's not limited by the small size that you had in the movie. So here, in terms of the story, we found this place because there was a distress beacon that was set up. Now, Marlowe, being the greedy person that he is, wants all the treasure to himself. So we are going to be disabling the distress beacon. What that means is that everything in this derelict is ours. However, for those of you who know anything about the original movie, that may not be a good thing. And we will come to that shortly. As far as Mission 10 goes though, we will get the first weapon against the alien, which is the flamethrower. This is the one that we'll actually be using the most. We will get a couple other resources, namely the pipe bombs and the molotovs, as and when we can craft them, which can also be used to deter the alien, but the flamethrower is the main one. And so, with the flamethrower, we can start to be much more aggressive around the alien. We don't have to constantly fear it, and we can really start fighting it. That being said, the alien is still a huge threat. If the alien actually gets us, we are going to have problems. So we need to be careful. Fortunately for us, we're able to bypass a fair bit of Mission 10 with our fancy little glitches. However, especially in the last part, things can get really tough, and I'll talk more about that when we get there. One thing that does, however, complicate things is the need to get all of the collectibles. In an all missions run, using all the glitches we have, Mission 10 is really quick because we can skip so much of it. However, in a 100% run, there's a rather alarming amount to get, so we need to be quite careful. So we very much need to ensure that we get everything while staying alive. The alien in Mission 10 is always in the passive state until the end. However, if you drop it, then it's going to be a nuisance for the entire thing. So we need to be very, very careful. So Mission 10 is actually divided into 4 parts. The first part, we will only really actually get the flamethrower. We won't do much else. The second part is the Lorenz Systech Spire. This is the place where we went in Mission 4 for the backtrack, and we will be going back there for the penultimate time now. So, first things first. Get through and collect the flamethrower. And we want to get out of this door quickly. We don't really mind about Waits talking. He talks too much. So we quickly escape through the door and are on our merry little way, with the objective to go to the Lorenz Systech Spire. Now you may be wondering, why didn't you get the flamethrower before all of the cutscenes and all of Mission 9? So you actually have to collect the flamethrower in this mission, otherwise you softlock the game, which is bad. Soft-locking the game is indeed bad. We don't want to do it. It is not beneficial for our speedrun. So, we have to... Oh, we have a little bit of downtime here. So, we're going to use it to get the most annoying ID tag. Well, it's not the most annoying ID tag. It's just a bit out of the way, really. There are a couple more which are much more out of the way. But this ID tag in particular is kind of like an awkward one to get. So what we're then going to do is go through to Mission 10. We still have a couple other things to pick up in here, but we come back to this place in the next mission. So we're not too desperate to pick them up. Obviously it would be nice, but it's far from essential. So, the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to talk to 3 sets of humans. Now, these humans are the ones that are time critical. You have to get them at the right point of the mission, otherwise you softlock. Well, you don't really softlock, but we can't properly finish 100%. And so, oh, okay, we're good. The alien is going to become very, very noisy very quickly. So, we'll hear a beep. That's the alien. So we're just going to keep on silent running, and we will be silent running for a rather long time. To once again say what silent running is, it's running diagonally and pressing crouch every half second, and this means that we can run at full speed without making noise. Now, quite importantly, you can't turn left terribly easily while silent running, because it will just make noise. However, you can turn right just fine, and this is just due to animations and how they work. Here we're going to get this terminal that we skipped in Mission 4, because we now can hack it. Grab the logs on it. And now we have everything in the Mission 10 part of Lorenz. We're going to do a rather flashy little fly out of bounds. Oh wow, just into the stairwell. Saves a tiny bit of time. And now we're actually going to go to where you're meant to go in Mission 3. And the reason we're doing this now is simply because there's a human here anyway, which we have to talk to. And so we may as well do 2 things at once. We can hack this. This door is one that you can clip through, but it's really fickle, and so we just hack it, it's easier. And especially for a marathon, we would rather not waste 20 seconds trying to save 3 seconds. Quickly sneak past the human. Oh, that's fine. Grab the terminal, and then we shall be on our way. 1, 2, 1, 2. Also, fun fact, the human actually goes through a door there. There's nothing on the other side, it just goes in there and despawns. So now, rather than doing what we're meant to do of locking down the alien, getting locked in with it, and having all of that bad stuff happen, we're just going to skip all of that and go to the elevator. Now, the elevator's locked, but what if it wasn't? Oh, look at that, we're in the elevator. So it turns out that the elevator's active, but we can just clip through the doors. Saves a bit of time. It saves a lot of time over doing it in the intended way. So now we're in Gemini. And in Gemini, we've got a couple more threats. We have an android that, if it sees us, it will try and attack us because we're not meant to be using its computer. So we have to be a little creative to get around it. And I'll be showing a rather silly strat, but it works quite well, provided I can pull it off. Worst case scenario, we get grabbed and we'll lose a couple seconds. But we need to be careful here to not actually get seen by any of the motion cameras, because that will cause the alien to drop. So we're going to quickly hug the right here, and go over to this door, hop through it, and hop on the terminal. We will take 2 punches. And now this Joe is really annoyed with us because it's saying, hang on a sec, you shouldn't be doing that. Why do you do that? Grab both of those, and then run around the table, take out the Joe, and quickly hop out of the door. Oh, damn, we did actually trip the camera. That is a problem. That's okay, we can work with that. I need to be a bit careful here, though. Hop through here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make noise in here. This area is actually inaccessible to the alien. And so by making noise there, the alien will think, okay, if I can't get there, I will be able to get there by upventing. And so it forces the alien into the vents for a brief period of time, which means that we can then run around fairly unintruded for a little bit. Good. Now we reload, keeping in mind that everything that we got from there is actually kept because of save warp and 100% rules. Everything is saved to the progression file, which is an internal file that the game has, which says, yep, you have picked this up. So we can reload and then go right to the exit. Because it turns out that the exit to Gemini is right next to the entrance. It's really quite convenient. Now, we don't get to do any of these fancy skips in this mission, or well, this part of Mission 10. This is KG, the final part of Mission 10. And we have a couple things to do here. First things first, we need to loot this body, because it contains a key card. There's a room which is very difficult to clip into, and so it's much more efficient to just grab the keycard for it. Now, I never actually mentioned it, but some doors are much harder to clip through than others. That's because they have what is called a force crouch zone in front of them. And a force crouch zone is a zone which forces you to crouch. Now, crouch clipping is a technique where you have to go up and down in order to actually get through doors. And if you take away the up from that, all of a sudden we're left with a problem. Oh, come on. Good. A bit of a flex there to fly down the ladder. Now, there is fall damage in this game, so if you don't perfectly cancel the fall damage by peeking, you die there. It is instantaneous death, so we need to be a bit careful to not die there. Now, we are on the clock, because as soon as we do this hack, the alien will drop in this room. And in fact, the alien can drop in this room before we've even finished it. So we need to rush out of the door, and preferably rush to this cutscene as quickly as possible, which forces the alien to upvent. The alien is now in the active state though. Also, we get a rather interesting cutscene. because we haven't actually done an objective. We skipped it. The game is very confused. So this is our first time facing an active alien. And we need to be careful about vents now. Because if the alien drops on us, problem. Big problem. Now, by silent running, we can alleviate most of the risks here. But I'm still going to take a slightly wide line. Not going to hug the wall perfectly because that's where all the vents are. Instead, what we're going to do, take it slightly wide, hit the button, and then we're going to crouch and hide behind here. We have to wait here because the airlock has to power. Alien should drop from here. Okay, he dropped the other side, that's fine. He should then go and investigate the button. Perfect, we see it. So he will now sniff out the button for a little while, because the button made loads of noise, and the airlock made loads of noise. Once he lowers his head, we're going to use the flamethrower to scare him away. Wait for it. Now. And we are going to rush and hide in the airlock, hopefully. Perfect. And we're going to stand right next to the airlock. This activates the cutscene the instant it can be triggered. And there's meant to be an alien trying to chase us into the airlock, but because we activated the cutscene instantaneously, it means that the alien doesn't actually have time to spawn into that cutscene. And this means that we get to do a very, very quick Mission 10. Goodness me, that's quick. Wow. Very happy with that. For marathon safe strats. Pretty good. So, Mission 11 is now the hardest mission. Comfortably the hardest mission in terms of raw tricks and what we have to pull off. So, the first thing that we have to pull off, hopefully we'll get through this door. Nice. Saves a little bit of time. Get through this door. And now we have to clip through this door. This is the dreaded Mike Tanaka room. And this door is very, very thick for some reason. And sometimes it can take ages to clip through. Hopefully, good. Didn't take that long. This door has a large, large force crouch zone in front of it. So we really, really, really have to try and get through it. It normally takes a fair few tries. Here we get our third weapon, or fourth weapon actually, the shotgun. We grab the keycard, which weirdly is mandatory. We can skip the door entirely, but the keycard is mandatory to actually progress the game. And we are going to do another save warp, or at least a save warp setup. Here we're going to grab cancel to prevent the Joe from grabbing us. We deal any amount of damage to the Joe while it's trying to grab us, and that completely cancels the grab animation. Really, really useful in the no major glitches category. We'll use it a couple times in this category too. So we get the save warp, or sorry, we get the save from an autosave, and then we just go back up the elevator. Rather convenient here. But now we're going to pick up everything that we missed in Mission 2, which actually is a surprising amount. And this is the hardest trick in the run, by far. Oh, okay, that's good. So getting out of here is really, really nice. This is one of the hardest parts. So this is a two-part trick. Getting out of bounds is pretty hard. However, this part is much, much, much harder. We have to do a rather specific lineup. We line up on the edge here. We then line our camera up here. We toggle our frame rate. We lower our cap to 5 FPS. And we tap backwards 1 frame at a time until we fall. We should now land on a ledge. We look, still at the low FPS. We grab it, and then we fall off. Oh my goodness, that is a first time, very, very hard trick. That is amazing. I would not expect that in an actual marathon run. Normally that would take 2 or 3 tries. So first time is really cool. I'm very happy with that. So, now we just have to pick up a couple of easy bits. Nothing too challenging here. We have to look through here. There we go, and grab that. And now we have to clip through this door. This door can be a bit fickle, but normally it's not too bad. Can take a couple tries though. Perfect. And now we can reload and walk back into mission 11. That's the hard part done. That is absolutely the hard part done. So now, as you'll remember, or may remember in mission 6, I said that we could do something cool with the stun baton. So I need to get my pre-crouch nice and early. And we are going to try and find a revolver human. There are lots of non-hostile humans which we need to be careful to not kill. There's the hostile human. There we go, and we can do a glitch called a ranged stun baton zap. And this allows us to use the stun baton completely at range, as you saw there, and even through doors. Or in that, because it was a barrier, we got through the barrier, through a tiny little gap in the barrier, and we could zap it. Now, this is a real nice trick because revolver humans, while we do have loads of health, we really want to save our health for the gas clip coming up in mission 13. So it's much better to be able to have the stun baton to zap that human and just not worry about losing any health whatsoever. We're going to open 2 doors here simply because otherwise we'd have to clip through them twice, and really it saves about the same amount of time as just opening them. So we can then grab the EMP V2, which we have to go a bit out of our way to get, but it's not actually that bad. And now we have 2 more terminals to get, and then we are on the home stretch to Mission 12. Mission 12 is notorious because it contains one of the most weird, wacky, RNG-dependent tricks in the run. Now, it should hopefully take no more than 2 attempts. But, as with all things marathon runs, there's always the chance for it to go wrong. And so hopefully I'm going to show it going right, because that would be really nice. This Joe you can just run past. Even in Nightmare you can just run past that guy, which I find quite cool. Tiny optimization there by flying over the stair rail. You don't have to do that. And terminal. This is the last terminal that we need to get. All of the other terminals that we would normally have to get are actually in the Marshal Bureau, which we got at the end of Mission 8, just while we were waiting for Marlowe to actually talk to us. So now, we just have to run to the exit. Run to the exit, hit the tram, Mission 12 time. But there's one more important thing that we need to get, and a very important thing at that. Because in the room that was just visible for a couple seconds on the right there, we have the not the EMP V2, we have the Noisemaker V3, and the Noisemaker V3 is essential for this next trick. It helps us so much. Also, we need it for 100% anyway. But we can hop in through this door, grab the ID tag, grab the Noisemaker V3. Oh, okay, didn't mean to interact with that, but we can do it. We're in downtime anyway. And now we just run back here to the tram. So we need to make sure that we have our Noisemaker and make sure that it is bound. So we can use a keybind to quickly get it later. And we're done with Mission 11. Goodness me. So, Mission 12 contains one of the weirdest tricks in the run. So I'm going to start explaining it very early. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and activate a tram. Now, we don't want to get too grand with our ambitions early on. Activating trams is actually a little harder than it sounds. For the sole reason of the button doesn't work. And normally, whenever we have to activate a tram, we just press the button. Now, pressing the button helps because it just activates the tram. However, in Mission 12, the buttons are disabled for the trams we need to go through. And this causes us a problem. Now, fortunately, excuse me, there are a couple of ways around this. First of all, by looking at the criteria of how does a tram spawn in, and how does the loading zone activate, we can work out a couple ways around this. So, there are 2 criteria that have to be met. Criteria number 1. There has to be a non-player entity in the tram zone for a tram loading zone to spawn in. Makes sense. The tram itself is an entity, and without the tram, there's no real point in having a tram loading zone, right? It makes sense. It's sensible. Number 2, there must not be a hostile NPC in the tram loading zone, or in the tram area. Now, this is less convenient, because it means that we can't just simply lure the alien into the tram and then activate the tram. So what we are going to do is we are going to lure some androids to the tram loading zone, and we are going to try and kill one so that it falls into the tram's loading zone. Because this fulfills both of the criteria. A dead android is not a hostile NPC, and it is an entity. So with both of those criteria fulfilled, it should be easy, right? There's just one problem. How do we get an android to fall in? How do we do that? Because that's not easy, is it?
Riccardo, sono qui.
And no, unfortunately it's really difficult, especially if the game doesn't want you to lure androids into the area that we want to get them to. So the androids are actually leashed to a certain area, and the tram is outside of their leash. So we have to first and foremost break their leash. We then have to lure them to a specific spot which is outside of their leash, so they will automatically turn around if they lose track of any leash break that we try and do. And then thirdly, we need to make sure that they go to a spot whereby we can kill them and make their corpse fall into a tram, which is a lot. Hey Samuels, bye Samuels. Samuels is briefly there. We won't be seeing much more of Samuels, I'm afraid. He's meant to die in this mission, but watching him die is really slow. So we go through to these androids. They will activate, and they're now in a glitched state. One of them is working properly. All of the rest are broken. One, however, has a keycard that we need to get. So we are going to be running over to this android, right here. All the other androids now activate, and we are going to try and lure them. So we get the Molly V2, it's mandatory. We get this ID tag, and we save. We're going to save and reload. This is to let the androids lose track of us, because we have to go into this room for the collectibles. And then we're going to continue with the lure. Grab that. Molly. Grab all the resources we can while we're here. Now we're going to lure as many of them as possible. Good. Right up to this door. This is where their leash ends. So they cannot go past this door, as you can see. So now, we're going to make as much noise as possible by sprinting and spamming crouch. And then, hopefully, they go for the noisemaker now. Fingers crossed this works. Facility clear is not what we want to see. We want to see androids walking there. Good. That looks promising. Good. Okay. Very, very good. So as you saw, the android walked all the way up. We shot him once right in the butt to make him move forwards a step. And then we shot him again to kill him. And that means that the android is far enough inside the tram so that it counts as a dead android, which is an entity, and inside the tram. So on this terminal, we actually need to do a weird thing and do it a bit slow. So we need to activate the audio log after Ricardo has finished his dialogue, which is a rather odd thing to have to do. But we need to activate a dialogue skip here. A dialogue skip cancels another line of dialogue, in specific this line of dialogue, early, so that we can then activate another thing. Wait, that cancelled super early. That's cool. And we're going to open up this door because we can do a bit of a cool thing here. 4930. And we're going to save. Now this is again a save warp save. Because we can do a really minor optimization here, which is super cool. Way back at the beginning, I mentioned that if a terminal has a log on the very, very first entry, it is automatically obtained once you activate the terminal. We can do that there. Oh, other way. And by doing that, it means that we're now in a glitched state, whereby the game thinks we're still kind of on a terminal, so we can't access our radial menu. However, as long as we don't need our radial menu for the remainder of the mission, we're actually pretty okay. Unfortunately, I've prepared everything so that we have all the health we need, and we're actually in a pretty solid state. Free crouch, clip through. Ah, okay, we went a bit too far there. Good, much better. We drop down here, and then fly out of bounds and back inbounds. Now, we are going to take a marathon safety save here, and this is purely a safety save, because I'm going to attempt a glitch called a gas clip. And gas clips are really, really strong if we get them to work. Now, we need to ensure that they work, because, well, if it doesn't work, we die. And dying's a bit unfortunate. So ideally, we do not want to die. But we still need to run around and get a bunch of collectibles. There's an android that saw us there from the music. So we grab cancel, and we get moving. Now, unfortunately, that gunshot will alert a lot of stuff, because gunshots are really loud. We crouch here, and gas clip. Ooh, okay, we need to bail and try again. We got stuck on something there. Better, we're low on health, but we're okay. Really low on health. This android may be a problem. Good. No, not good! So I actually made a mistake there. Shooting it was the wrong play, because it meant that I reset the swing timer on it. Go through here, bit more, run over here, and peek, so that we fall down without taking any fall damage. Nice, okay. Don't activate the end of the mission yet, we have to get this. And then finally we can actually leave the mission. Okay, lost a couple seconds due to the grab, but that's absolutely okay. Still a very, very good mission. Now, we crouch, and we fling ourselves over here. This is going to be a very, very quick-paced mission. We grab an audio log, and we clip straight through this tram. We don't need to actually do anything proper with it, we just go straight through it. And this is now where our flares are going to come in useful. We are also going to pick up the gas torch V3. Not because we need it, but because for 100% we do need it. We don't actually... Oh, actually we do use this now. It is useful in the run. What we're going to try and do here, though, is use flares to clip through this panel to save a bit of time. Perfect. And so, by planting it, it positions our camera in a place whereby we can actually get in the vent, which is really cool. And it means we don't have to take the panel off, do the whole torch animation, saves a bunch of time. Here, we are now going to get the long-awaited pipe bomb V2. If you remember way back in Mission 5, I pointed out the pipe bomb V3. Well, we can now finally get it, because we have the pipe bomb V2. And we will be getting that in the next mission. We go through here. And we need to get a couple more things here. We go through here. And we need to get a terminal and ID tag through here. Now, there is a Super Joe guarding it, which we should take care of. Grab the ID tag, and then we have to get the bolt gun. Now, this is annoying because we don't use the bolt gun, but unfortunately, the terminal cannot be actually accessed until you pick up the bolt gun. So we just have to say, fine game, give us the bolt gun, we want the terminal, please. The only other way of actually bypassing the bolt gun would be to backtrack down here, but it loses so much more time than actually just picking up the bolt gun, so we don't bother. we just go grab the bolt gun and keep on moving. Now, we most certainly want to heal. And as you can see, we heal to almost full there because of the medkit V2s, and it's so useful. Now, while we could actually clip into this elevator, this button isn't active, so there's no real point. However, there's absolutely a point of clipping out of the elevator, because it teleports us up very quickly, so there's no point in waiting. Also, we just picked up the shotgun and revolver, but we already had them both, because we never lost them, which is rather amusing. Here we're going to do a tiny, teeny clip by just going over here, and it just gets us through this little barrier there. Here, we can then clip through here, fall down to the ground. I didn't peek cancel in time, which is okay, but it means that we have a falling animation. Oh, okay, he was trying to be cheeky there. This guy should punch us, because we should have grab immunity. Good. And now we're going to do a very, very minor, but I like it, sort of out of bounds, or really hover over the void, where we fly over here, drop down by the box, and go over to the next major part of the story, the nest. So I haven't really talked about the story in a little while, so let's have a quick catch-up. We failed to trap the alien. The alien flew off into space with us. We made it back to the station, though, because of the airlock. And now we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the androids. In doing so, we then went to the Apollo core, which said, hey, hang on, I can't lift the lockdown. Something is wrong with the reactor. And we have gone down to check the reactor, and we're now finding out, oh, something is very, very wrong. This is not what a reactor is meant to look like. This is a nest of aliens. And the nest, especially in a casual playthrough, is very scary. We're going to get our pre-crouch now, after the facehugger. Oh, I crouched in the wrong spot. So this will force crouch us for a little bit. Bit unfortunate, but I'm not really fast. And normally the nest is really dangerous, because there's random drops, there's facehuggers, there's aliens everywhere. But that alien's actually a scripted alien. And so, because it is a scripted alien, it will drop in the same spot once we hit a certain mission trigger, but it will always upvent. And once it's upvented, it's out of play. That is another scripted alien, which we make upvent. And now, we're safe. But you may be thinking, wait, what? What do you mean we're safe? The reason we are safe is because we never actually activated the passive alien. We've only ever touched scripted aliens. And so the alien state is set to inactive. As wild as that sounds, the alien's inactive now. It's not passive, it's inactive, it's not present. We can do whatever we want and it won't drop. There's one final facehugger here, and as long as we don't die to that, we're now good. I mean, there are a couple facehuggers still left around, but none that we're going to run into. And the alien can't drop. It's mad. Because one of the most dangerous parts of the run, in a casual playthrough, it's safe. It's entirely safe. Which is magical. Because it helps us a lot. So I'm going to try and get a crouch right as we exit the loading screen here. Ah, didn't quite get it. Getting the free crouch there simply means we don't have to get it at this door. We don't really lose any time, but it's nice to get it sorted. Now, rather than doing all of the intended stuff in the reactor, which involves overloading the cores, powering it up, doing all of that shenanigans, stuff that we don't really want to do, we can just run to the exit. Because all of the powering up just serves one purpose, and that is to open this door. Now, as you may have known by now, or figured out by now, doors are, well, not really that relevant. Which I love. We just fly past it, and it is all good. Now, once we are past the door, all we have now is 2 minigames and a cutscene. Or do we? So it turns out that the cutscene at the end, despite being really, really cool and really good lore-wise, It only opens a door. So, sorry cutscene, we can go through the door. To give some context on what the cutscene would be, we see loads of aliens not actually getting killed and running free around Sevastopol Station. Which, bad. Aliens running free is not particularly good for our health, because aliens like to kill us. So we grab one last ID tag, and that's everything. We're good. Make sure that things are reloaded. In our lovely little bit of downtime here. And now we can actually just start crafting stuff. So, what do we need to craft? Really, not much. We have our 3 Molotovs. We can craft an extra pipe bomb, which is very useful because it means that rather than having to use multiple bursts of fuel on the alien, we can just throw 1 pipe bomb or 1 Molotov and it will always upvent. We'll be trying to use this in Mission 16. Though, that being said, it does rely on my aim being functional, which, it's not always. Okay, Mission 15. We have a couple cool things to do here. The first thing we have to do is grab the Pipe Bomb V3. Pipe Bomb works in Steve? Yes, it does. So the Pipe Bomb and Molotov both work on the alien, which is super useful. Okay, so out of the tram, we now have to get Pipe Bomb V3. And as you remember, it's in that little room. However, there's a slightly more crafty way of picking it up, which is just look at it through the wall. There you go. No glitches were used in that. You can boot up your game on Mission 5 and do that exact same trick yourself. It requires no general knowledge of like where it is. You just kind of aim your camera somewhere there, and it just sticks through the wall. It's so easy to do. I would highly recommend just doing that and then having fun in Mission 5, lobbing pipe bombs around. Very, very fun. Would recommend. So here we're going to get one thing that we did miss earlier in Mission 6, which is this little gas room. In here is a Nostromo log, which we need to get. So, as with all things, save warp, we can grab it and then be on our merry little way. Next, we have a couple things to get, because in Mission 6 we skipped so much stuff. So we have to do a bit of backtracking in order to actually pick it all up. So first things first, an ID tag. And we're going to do all of this in a backtrack style save warp. Oh, okay, we had a force crouch zone. We ideally don't want to burn too much because burning's not great for our health. Good. 5 logs on that terminal. This terminal is lethal in the no major glitches version of the 100% run. However, fortunately, it's nice and chill for us. So we're going to take a save here because it's pretty close to where we need to be. But most importantly, we can actually just warp back to here, because the stuff that we need to get is a little out of the way, and we'd rather just get it nice and easily. Grab the terminal here. Good. Now there'll be an ID tag just past here. This is normally where you're meant to pick up the med supplies for Taylor, but we never actually picked them up for her, but she's fine. She's a strong girl. So we then go through here. We need to be a bit careful to not drop the alien. While we have weapons for him, it's not ideal to drop him, because then we have to deal with him. And then last but not least, we're going to go right to the terminal, activate it, and immediately reload. The log that we need is in the top position. Also, there's a free medkit there if you reload. So if ever you're finding it difficult to keep up with supplies, grab that medkit. It's also really good in Nightmare. We're doing this in Novice, but if you get it in Nightmare, super useful. Now we get our second V3 tool, as well as the V3 flashbang there. And now grab the ID tag, and now Ripley's going to say, oh, we can hack through this. But, well, I've got other things to do, such as just go through it. So now we are going to the Anisadora. The Anisadora is intended to be a big old lore dump, a huge kind of emotional scene. However, it also takes a while. And so it's a little bit boring. And so what that means is we have devised a crafty little way of skipping parts of it. And I have to pat myself on the back for this, because I was the one who introduced this next trick into runs. However, it's a dangerous trick, so we should be taking a marathon-approved safety save for it. Because we quite like our marathon-approved safety saves. This is not a safety save you would take in a regular run, unlike many of the others which you actually would take in a regular run. This is purely optional. Actually, no, wait, I take that back. This is one that we'd take in a regular run, because we need to do a save warp. And it's convenient because it is both a marathon-approved safety save, and also actually required for the run. Because there are these things which are kind of out of the way here. And so, as they're not a blueprint, we just run and grab them, and then reload. It saves us the run back. It's lovely. Oh, I mishit Q there. One more thing to get in this terminal. There we go. Good. Now I must remember, get the pre-crouch, because otherwise I will be flailing against this next door. Pre-crouch here, go through the door, and there is a scripted facehugger just behind these cardboard boxes. There's also a terminal to the left, keep that in mind. Now, those cardboard boxes are dangerous because they are fireproof, blast-proof, gun-proof. They're kind of insane. So we need to make sure that we do actually hit the hugger and not the boxes, because the facehugger will very gladly use the boxes for protection. So we've just done a bit of out of bounds there to skip a lot of the running around here. And we need to be careful to ensure that we do this correctly, because what we are now going to do is go out of bounds. Oh, well, we're going to get out of the intended area, which we're meant to watch Marlowe and Taylor have a little argument, try and kill each other, and we're just going to start running. The reason for that is because we have a terminal to get. Now, the terminal that we skipped has two properties. One, it's needed for 100%. Number two, it contains an audio log. Now, you may remember in Mission 13, we used a terminal which had an audio log in order to overwrite dialogue. For whatever reason, the dialogue on this terminal that we are about to visit has a higher priority dialogue than this very, very critical story. Why this is the case, I cannot tell you. But there's a couple frame window. Oh, come on. Okay, not ideal there. We missed a lot of frame windows despite mashing our scroll wheel on it. But we should still be able to make this work. Good. Hop out. Drop down here. We'll see these now activate. Despite Marlowe and Taylor both standing around looking confused, Taylor only now just gets to her little terminal there. Which means that she is now dialogue cancelled both the things there, both the generator and the hack, which saves us about 30 seconds. And now we're just going to get running. So by running out here, Taylor will still do her usual sequence, where she will now start talking. But by exiting early, we save a lot of time. So we are going to be legging it, running as fast as we can through all of these explosions. Now, for those of you who do not know, unfortunately Taylor is about to meet a rather sudden demise. And so Taylor normally would die about now, and only now with the door open. So we have run all of this way before the game actually intends us to run this way. But that is far from good enough for us. We wish to go faster. Even faster. And so we are just running to the exit now. We don't mind about anything. We have all the collectibles, everything we need. Just get to the exit. That's the only thing that matters for us. And now we have Mission 16, where I finally get to breathe. Almost. We have a couple more minutes before I'm actually able to breathe. So, first things first, we actually have to do a backtrack. And it's been a while since we've done a backtrack. However, we are currently missing the Molotov version 3. And the Molly V3 is actually right next to where the second set of humans were in Mission 10. So why didn't we get it then? Well, the simple answer is we didn't have the Molly V2. And so we had to get the Molly V2 before we can get the Molly V3, because those are the rules. The Molotov version 2 was actually up near all those androids. And that means that there was no way of accessing that early. Molly, ID tag, and now we just run back. A little detour, but nothing too extreme. We have to take a more extreme detour later to get one ID tag. So this isn't too bad in the grand scheme of things. But now we have actually the ability to reap our rewards. Because in Mission 4, you may remember that we didn't actually unlock any of the doors. This section, especially on Nightmare, is a nightmare for trying to survive. Because there are loads of humans with revolvers, with shotguns, all of whom want you dead. And this is, well, not ideal, really. We would rather stay alive than be dead. But because we've locked all the doors, all bar 2 are actually now locked away and cannot access us. Which means that this section is now substantially safer. That being said, I will be using some of our lovely marathon-approved safety saves coming up shortly, for the sole reason of there's a very rare soft lock involving minigames that we have to do in a little bit, and I'd rather not just get soft lock there, so that will be one of my marathon-approved safety saves. The second marathon-approved safety save will be after Spacewalk, for the sole reason of if I happen to die after Spacewalk, I don't want to do it again. I almost certainly will not die, but in the event that something silly happens, I'd always rather be on the safe side. It's one of those things where if I died, I would have to do a whole 15 minutes of gameplay again, and that's just not fun for anyone. We can remove that guy from our path, and there'll be one more shotgun guy up here, who we will have to take care of. And that's all the humans will have to deal with. So much nicer than having to do it the old-fashioned way of dealing with all the revolver humans, all the shotgun humans, having them just have a big old shootout with us, because that just takes time, and we don't really want that. Oh, nearly through. This door can be a bit fickle. Good. And now, you may remember when we killed Mr. Hughes, the human in this little area, back in Mission 4, all that time ago, we went in and got a terminal here. Well, it turns out there's actually an ID tag in here as well. And we didn't get it earlier simply because we had to wait for the elevator. And as we have to wait for the elevator here, well, we may as well use our time getting something. We grab the button, wait, and then go through the door. Oh, through the door. Good. Now, there was also one more terminal that we missed way back, which was up at the top of the stairs. Now, the stairs actually don't exist anymore. They've been despawned. So I'll try and show this. There's a room just to our right here, which is actually now locked. And even if you clipped into it, you actually can't see anything. Like, the game unloads everything, including all of the lighting, which is really bad. So instead we just go up here via the vent and via the ladder, and we make sure to get the terminal here. And this is the penultimate of the out-of-the-way things. We have one more set of things in Mission 17, which we're going to do a bit strangely, but nothing else that we have to go miles out of the way for. So here we're going to make use of our Molotovs to ensure that the humans die. We do not want the humans to live here because it will mess up our exit. Instead, what we want to do is click through this door, activate this elevator, and then very quickly get off the elevator. This will benefit us later when we essentially need to take the elevator. This is one of the few elevators in the game that function as an elevator and go up and down rather than snap of the fingers teleporting us. And so it's very important that, well, it's not very important, but it's nice time save to activate it early, because that way when we actually need to take it, we can just fall down the elevator shaft and land on the elevator, rather than having to wait for the elevator to actually go down itself properly. These minigames are a bit slow. Unfortunately, they are mandatory, because if you don't do them, then we miss out on a log. Even in an all missions run where you have to play through all the missions sequentially, skipping all of the 100% required stuff, these are still required because you have to do these to progress the story. It is unfortunate, but we have to do it. However, we get to do a fun thing once they are done, and that involves falling out of the world. Really, quite literally. So we go out here, and then fall out into the void. Then when we land, we're just back at the exit here. We don't need to wait for the observatory to go back down. We're just in the clear. So we clip back through this door. I said clip back through this door. Okay. It opens anyway if we don't get the clips. And now, we hop up the elevator and change into a spacesuit, because it is time for Spacewalk. Spacewalk is a nice, long, open section whereby we really just have one objective, and that is communicate with the Torrens. We want to contact the Torrens, the ship that we first came into the spaceship on, or space station on, and our purpose is very much escape. So we are going to try and contact Verlaine and say, Verlaine, help, please. We're in real danger. We need emergency extraction from this space station. It's really, really, really bad. And so we have a nice long walk. This is donation time. So in a marathon setting, I would absolutely say go for it. We've got a couple minutes. This is where we use donations. However, because this is a submission run, I get to talk about gravity. So how does gravity work in this game? The way gravity works is, unlike movement, which movement is a value per second, and the game tries to keep that no matter what your frame rate is. Gravity, on the other hand, is an acceleration per frame, which, at kind of like a first glance, sounds very similar, right? But it has one critical difference of per frame. Frames are not a time source. They are something that happens every second, but once per frame is very different from once per second. It's because we could have 100 frames a second, or we can have 5 frames per second. Currently, I have limited this to 5 frames per second. And what this means is that gravity is really, really weak whenever I toggle my frame rate to low values. And this results in a very weird effect where we just fall incredibly slowly. As you can see, we're really not falling very fast at all. And this has a rather useful effect of we can actually just take a slightly more efficient route. Rather than going around curves, we can just take a straight line. Now, in general, in speedrunning, taking Euclidean distances, or just straight lines from point A to point B, is in general optimal. Obviously there are exceptions in various games, but this game is no exception. The optimal route to go from point A to point B is a straight line. And so we are going to make as best a use of that as possible by really just going in straight lines. Now, there's one slightly bigger use though, because rather than just having nice corner cutting abilities, we also have the ability to essentially float down to areas below us. Now, fall damage isn't the issue here. What is the issue is going out of bounds. Because normally if we were to try and fall off the spaceship, then we really need to consider how else can we use that? And we are going to use this to really escape the lovely bounds of this mission. Because all we have to do now is input coordinates, talk to the Taurans, and then escape. But there's a really long bit of dialogue. But, well, surely you know by now, our plan is to skip that. Do we have other spots where we can go for donations? Yes. I can definitely rein back on the amount I'm talking. But I want to make sure that in a submission, it's known that there is so much to talk about in this game. And I can talk basically non-stop for the entire run. And there's always useful things to talk about. Well, Mission 9 is a very, very good one. Mission 5 in the run backwards is very good for donations. Mission 12 early on has some useful parts. Mission 11, once we're just grabbing all of the items, is good for donations. Mission 15, outside of the clips, is very good for donations. Mission 14 in the reactor is good for donations. So there are some good points. I have thought about it. Mission 17 and Mission 18, however, are pretty full on, and there's only one part in Mission 18, which is the final bit of Spacewalk, which is really good for donations. But Mission 17 is just bam, 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 full on. So, short answer, yes. So now we can actually make use of the flying ability, or slow falling ability, because normally we'd have to wait for ages for the elevator to become active, and, well, that's no fun, really. We don't want to wait. So we can go out of bounds, and we can fly down to this stretch of spacewalk below us. Now this is really, really cool, because it saves so much time. Like, I believe this saves about 50 seconds. It's unbelievable how much time this saves. You can see gravity's finally starting to pull us down a bit, and so we just make sure that we're over the platform, and we keep moving. And so all of this dialogue, we would normally be stuck up on the top platform, not able to actually move, but we are well and truly on our way. Now there's a cool thing that we can actually spot here. Just above the door, roughly at where the center of my screen is, on the mouse cursor, oh sorry, on the pointer, you'll be able to see an alien appearing very shortly. There he is, and you'll see him jump up and then jump over. And this is the alien that we actually see in just a second. And he actually goes all the way up onto the roof, and now he's out of my field of vision. But that alien is the same one that actually goes and surprises us in just a second, which I think is such a cool little touch. Because it's not just, bam, aliens come from the ceiling. But it also tells us a rather terrifying thing, that the aliens don't need to breathe. Which is scary for us. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is our marathon-approved safety save, number 1. I actually skipped number 1. This is meant to be number 2. But in the case that we die, I do not want to have to do spacewalk again. So we are taking a save here, and it loses some time, but we are a-okay with that. Now here I need to change my frame rate cap back to 9, so we can toggle it. And we are going to use the last of our Molotovs here. Now, to give a bit of context, I tried doing another submission attempt for this. It got all the way through to the end and was a really good time, but I skied this molly. I completely missed it, and it was very funny. So now we throw a molly at the alien. It was kind of like that, really. Yeah, it's kind of exactly like that throw where it just went whee over his head. That was not intentional, by the way. I wanted to hit him there. This is our second marathon-approved safety save. Just like in Mission 4, where we have to go out of bounds with a fly here, we want to ensure that we don't die. It's very possible to die here. We're doing exactly the same as the exit of Mission 4, where we are going out here, hopping out of bounds, and then dropping onto the elevator. We don't need to take this elevator, but it's a very convenient place to actually go back in bounds. So we let ourselves fall slightly, bit more, then sprint left and crouch to get back in. And now we can clip through this door, And we're at the end. Really solid. It's just a shame about that Molotov. Okay, so mission 17. We have a couple things that we need to do early on here. Number one is clip in through here, grab the audio log, and now, good, the human has its shotgun. That is reassuring because we also face a soft lock here, where if the human gets detached from its shotgun, it then crashes the game if it tries to shoot at you. We grab everything there and then reload. This is an important reload because we need to reset the alien. So now that we've reset the alien, we are going to crouch, take out a revolver, and fire a bullet. We're then going to plant a pipe bomb in exactly the same spot, because this should allow us to lure the alien onto a pipe bomb. The alien should drop. You can just about see its tail there. It will run across, trigger the pipe bomb, and then activate the tram. This is very, very similar to what we did in Mission 12, but much, much, much quicker. Because there's a dedicated setup to it, the alien always behaves there. Very, very useful. We don't have to worry about luring anything there, like an android, with leashes, anything like that. Okay, the alien has dropped. Oh, that's now dangerous. Where are you, old buddy or pal? As long as you let me get through here, we're all good. Okay, line this up. I'll explain this trick after. I would get a co-commentator to do this trick explanation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, drop. Good. So what we did there is we lined up a fly, or an out-of-bounds fly, and we timed it for 18.5 seconds, because I've worked out that that lines up exactly... No! Okay, we have to do it again. Fine, fine, fine. We can work with this. So, we're appearing somewhere here, and what we have to do is we have to go out of bounds, drop down a bunch. Ah, okay, that's unfortunate. But we have our lineup now. Go out of bounds, move backwards, drop down a bunch, and we should be able to, if we move in this direction... Ah, okay, I'm a bit lost here. Okay, I have to... Ah, there it is. Okay, we moved under it. We can actually use the map here. Fine. And moving in this direction, we should hopefully see the area that we were meant to go to fairly shortly. There we go, we can see it. So we need to fly over to it. We may... are we too low? I may be able to make this work, but barely. So by crouching midair, we can actually maintain some of our vertical velocity and reset it. There we go. Okay. Take 2. Ah, that was very, very unfortunate that we didn't get the first one. I think I went too low before trying to clip back in bounds. There we go. Much better. Ah, okay. Bit unfortunate that it didn't work first try, but we're still good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a save, and then we're going to backtrack into mission 17. Yeah, that trick's really hard to recover if you fail the last section, but fortunately we recovered it. It did cost a bit of time, but we are all good. So now we have to do a bit of finagling out of bounds, but that comes in mission 18. This is actually a pretty weird section now. So we are going back into mission 17. Mission 17 is meant to be a huge threat to the player. Really dangerous section, nasty everything, active aliens, multiple aliens. However, by exiting it and going back into it, we actually enter a state called backtrack state, or free roam. And this means that the alien is just chilling, it's passive. We're going to take another save here. Now, don't worry, this doesn't overwrite the other save. we're going to rely on loading our previous save in a second. But we need to go out of bounds here first. Oh, sorry. Through a door, not out of bounds. Through another door. And then we're going to grab a collectible. And line ourselves up in a corner and access the terminal. Get both of those and then reload. So that is that terminal done. Get the crouch and then go through here. Now we need to get one more audio log and then we're good to continue with mission 17 and finish it off. But doing it in this weird backtrack way means that we skip all of the really dangerous parts of mission 17, and provided that you don't mess up the out of bounds, it's actually a bit faster. Unfortunately, this will be a bit slower than doing it the slower, safer way, simply because I did, unfortunately, load previous save this time. I did unfortunately mess up the fly and out of bounds section. So now we have 2 more things to get in this mission before we are done, and those are the EMP v3 and a Nostromo log. Now the EMP v3 is a very weird thing to put in here because, well, there are no androids anymore, and so literally there is nothing we can do with the EMP v3 but we need it for 100%, so it's a bit of a fun weird thing to get. Right, now we run to the exit, and then it is just mission 18 left. Nice, okay. Mission 18 is kind of the final big send-off for this little section, and the game does not go easy on us. Fortunately, we don't really give the game an opportunity to not go easy on us, because we have a couple of tricks up our sleeve. So, we grab the log there, and then we grab the ID tag here, we get our pre-crouch and go through the door. Good. Now there is a passive alien here, so we need to be careful to not make too much noise. Because if we make noise and are on a terminal, we're just dead. No 2 ways about it. Grab that, and then we most importantly need to do that final one. Now we can make noise now because the aliens are set to just completely be gone because it is now scripted mode. This is not actually a marathon approved safety save. This is a tactical safety save for later. We put way too much fuel into that alien, just to make sure it goes. Lob a pipe bomb to that alien. We have to make sure that we don't go too close to that pipe bomb, because the pipe bomb V3 is obscene in its range. And then we activate this. Jump scare warning. This whole sequence has to be done for 1 ID tag. This is the single longest anything in the game to get. Now, in a no major glitches run, this whole section is mandatory. In a glitched run like this is all optional. Because you know that save we took just earlier? It has a purpose. And the purpose is not just to ensure that we survive this section. I will show you the purpose very shortly. But first, 1 ID tag. Right in front of us on that bench to our left is an ID tag. That is the final collectible in the game. Up until this point, we have everything else. We have 151 logs, we have 20 blueprints, we have 10 Nostromo logs, and once we pick this up, we will have 50 out of 50 ID tags. And at long last, we will then have 1 objective left. And that objective is very simple. Finish the game. And we are going to make use of this by going here, getting our pre-crouch, and then we're going to use this desk to clip out of bounds very similar to what we did in Mission 8 with a similar sort of bench. Oh my gosh, Ripley, I'm so sorry. We got a violent Ripley scream there. We're going to fly out of bounds and get to this elevator. You can actually see a door there. However, it's a door that will soft lock you if you don't have a spacesuit on. So we don't really want to do that. There's no reason to heal. I'm going to do it anyway. It's downtime, we may as well do something. And as you can see, we actually have all of our weapons on spacewalk. I am silent running here because there's a rare chance that an alien actually hears us and manages to drop on spacewalk. While very rare, we don't want that happening because that involves us most likely dying. And dying is fairly slow. We do not wish to die. So we now have one final thing to do, and that is free the Torrens. From the dialogue with Verlaine, we've learned that the Torrens is actually now stuck and can't be released without using some explosive release pins. We are going to prime these so that we can actually escape with Verlaine on the Torrens. Now, the game intends for you to be in a spacesuit here. So by not being in a spacesuit, we're going to see a couple of weird things happen. One of which will be a rather odd cutscene, or lack thereof in 100%. But you can see scripted aliens all over here. There's one just at the back there. And now we have the explosive pins. The game intends for you to do all 4 of these one at a time. However, we want to save time. And so, with a very quick motion of your camera, you can actually do them 2 at a time, which is so nice. Each one of these pins takes about 15 seconds. So being able to save 15 seconds per double pin that you get is lovely. And additionally, I think we may have even got glitchy pin, whereby we activated the one on the bottom right, but it doesn't actually go up. Weird visual glitch, doesn't affect anything. Here, a 100% specific glitch is likely to occur, where we just rise up. 3, 2, 1, cutscene. Entirely consistent, only on this category that you get to see that. Ah, and we have slow walk. At the end of the game, you can either get fast walk or slow walk. It is completely random. Fast walk involves Ripley walking substantially faster than this. Also, where did she get the spacesuit from? Who knows? Ripley is magic, as we have most certainly established. But either way, at the end of the run, we have to meet Verlaine. Unfortunately, Verlaine's looking a little different here. And so, we now have one final thing to do. The game began with us entering Sevastopol on an airlock, and the game finishes with us leaving the Torrens from an airlock. Nice. So, cut, probably. Also, that's a record time. That's a marathon style run. This is a world record time. However, for those of you who haven't seen 100% runs before, 100% runs don't actually finish on the end time. Instead, the runs actually finish when we confirm that we have everything. So I'm going to load up mission 18, and we are going to see, did I actually get a record, or did I miss something? Because as far as the submission is concerned, it doesn't matter. In a marathon run, it does not matter if you miss anything. It's all about the show. However, in a speed run, especially one that wants to go onto the leaderboard, we care about this stuff. So, we're looking for the word advanced in everything. Advanced medkit, advanced pipe bomb, advanced molly, advanced EMP, advanced flashbang, advanced smoke bomb, and advanced noisemaker. Now we check for any sets of dashes in here, because dashes indicate a missed log. That's all the logs. That is all the Nostromo logs. Hey, would you look at that? Nice. 155 hundo run. That's pretty cool. That's a valid run.